So, hello, good morning, good afternoon. How are we doing this morning? Florida Panther fans, Flying Fluffy Sports fans, all of the fans, how are we doing? Now, normally, this podcast is exclusively for YouTube members and Patreon supporters, but today, I figured today, we'll put it out for public consumption. A lot of times I do it outside with the dogs, but today I wanted to do it in here because there's at least one specific thing that I want to be able to read off. If the picture's a little bit dark, my apologies. I don't exactly have my studio light blasting at me like I would normally, because between game one and that stream being 7 hours and last night's stream being 6 hours, my eyes are a little bit crispy. They're not a little bit crispy. I'm blind. So I want to start off by taking you on a trip down memory lane. Now, I started this channel in the 16-17 Florida Panthers season, 16-17 NHL season. And I would just like to remind everybody where we've come from. So I'm going to read to you the roster from top to bottom in terms of points for the 16-17 Panthers. This is my 7th season doing these videos, and the team I'm about to read off is from the first year. Obviously, we know that's the year we started off with Gallant and we finished off with Rowe. But in terms of players, Trocheck led the team with 54 points. Then Barkov had 52. Jonathan Marchessault, 51 points. Where have we heard that name before, and why does it sound like somebody we're going to hear about again? Can't quite place it. Our fourth leading scorer that year was none other than Jaromir Jagr with 46 points, who was in the building last night when the Panthers clinched their trip to the Stanley Cup Finals. Next up, we've got Keith Yandle with 41 points. Riley Smith with 37 points. So, 2 of our top 6 scorers, the first year I was making these videos, we most likely will be facing up against both of those guys in the Stanley Cup Finals. That's an insult to irony. There's so many storylines there, and we're going to get to them. Believe me, not here in this video so much, although we might a little bit. But there's content to be had there. Let's put it that way. Next up was Jussi Jokinen with 28 points. Jason Demers with 28 points. And then Jonathan Huberdeau with 26 points. But remember, he only played 31 games. That was the year where his Achilles was sliced in the preseason. So he was still pretty close to his normal self when he came back in terms of points per game. To round out the top 10, here's a name from the past who... one of those guys that we might have thought could have been a Mason Marchment type of guy, but just never quite got there. With 24 points, Colton Sevior. Then Aaron Ekblad with 23 points, 21 points. Like I said, I'm blind. Mike Matheson with 17 points was also tied with Mark Pysyk for 17 points. Derek McKenzie, our captain, had 16. Nick Bjugstad, 14 points in 54 games. He was a minus 19. And this was the beginning of the end for Nick Bjugstad as a Florida Panther. Next up with 14 points is Alexander Petrovic. Good kid. Then 10 points for Dennis Malgin, 10 points for Thomas Vanek, 7 points for Michael Scarbosa. Who remembers the original Ryan Lomberg? Michael Scarbosa. Jared McCann, 7 points. Now, he only played 29 games with us that year. I don't remember getting him at a trade deadline. Maybe we did. I'm trying to remember why he only played 29 games for us, but that memory escapes me. Then, to round out the bottom, and there's a lot here on the bottom, Greg McKegg with 6 points. Another almost Lombard Marchment type of guy, but not quite. We were shooting for that direction, but we just couldn't hit the target. And then my favorite all-time Florida Panther with 5 points in 21 games played, including at least a half dozen on the top line with Barkov, Seth Griffith. Yeah, that's a true story. That's a true story. And not only was he on the top line, but there were people on Twitter, we were arguing over whether or not he was worthy of a top line spot. That's the space we were in when I started this YouTube channel. Then I'm about to make you all want to throw up with the next name on the list with 4 points. Brace yourself. Jakob Kindl. 2 of you just threw up your lunch. My apologies. Jakob Kindl with 4 points. Then we get to some lesser knowns. Shane Harper had 3 points. Kyle Rowell had 3 points. Another kid who we were trying to get. We were trying to find Ryan Lombard, but we just couldn't hit the nail on the head. Paul Thompson had 3 points. Dylan McElrath had 1. Roberto Luongo actually had a point. I wasn't going to read off the goaltenders, but I guess he must have had an assist at some point. Ian McCoshen with a point. Red O'Bara, our other goalie, had no points. Steven Kampfer, 0 points. James Reimer, our other goaltender, had no points. And for some reason, this is not me. This is hockeyreference.com. I don't know why. But at the bottom of the list, with 0 points, even though there's 4 other guys with 0 points, including a goaltender, for some reason, at the bottom of the list is Mackenzie Weegar. I don't, this is not me. Okay? This is, in fact, you know what? Give me a hat. You're not going to believe me. I wasn't going to share the whole thing, but just to be sure that y'all know I'm telling the truth, there he is, area at the bottom, Mackenzie Weegar. I don't know why they put him here at 0. If anybody should have been at 0, it should have been Kampfer. Oh, I bet you they put the zeros in alphabetical order. That's what they did, right? That's what they did. They put the zeros at alphabetical order. Okay. Now, the interesting about this year is we finished, our record was, we were in 6th place. We finished with 81 points, 35, 36, and 11. But, you know, the goaltending that year for a team that finished in 6th place, right? Where the hell is the goaltending? Huh? Where the hell? Oh, here we go. Okay. The goaltending, numbers-wise, wasn't all that bad. James Reimer had a .920 save percentage and a 2.53 goals against. Roberto Luongo had a .915 save percentage and a 2.68 goals against. And at some point, I guess one or both of those guys was injured because Red O'Bara was the weak link and quite possibly at least was one of the main reasons why we were below 500 in terms of goaltending. He was 0-5 with a .876 save percentage and a 3.45 goals against. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the 2016-2017 Florida Panthers. And since then, just since then, it's not like that's the start of the franchise. But since then, we have annually, pretty much just about annually, remade some portion of the team in an effort to get where we are now. That was the year that Tom Rowe took over. So the following year was the year that Dale Talon took it back. And then Bill Zito took it back. And we had Bugner. And then we got rid of Bugner. And then we had Q. And we know what happened with Q. And then we had Bruno. And now we've got Brunette. And the most interesting thing for me is if you take a step back a year before that year, the reason why I started the channel, in part, was because I was so upset over the, quote, summer of analytics, where we had just given the Islanders a hard time. It was the first time in a while we'd make the playoffs. We just took them to 6 games. It could have gone 7, a couple of bounces, and one, if we could have controlled John Tavares, we might have won that series. And we decided during that summer to remake the entire freaking franchise, basically. See, we were already going to lose McKenzie and Brian Campbell, okay? Excuse me, not McKenzie, Willie Mitchell. We were already going to lose Willie Mitchell and Brian Campbell on defense. So instead of just keeping the rest of the defense intact and just replacing those 2 guys, we decided to also trade Gabranson and Kulikov. Which, if you looked at it from then to now, you go, yeah, good move. But in that moment, it was not a good move. It was not a good move. Now, what happened after that, obviously, is the last preseason game, Jonathan Huberdeau gets this freak thing where his escape blade cuts his Achilles, and he missed the first 50 games of the year. Gallant, team starts a little bit slow, 500, Gallant gets fired. Now, there's way more reasons to why Gallant got fired that I can't go into here, but Gallant did not get fired because the team started slow. It was how can I put this? If you've been in a relationship where you're just really wanting to break up with somebody and they do that one last thing and you're like, that's it, I'm done. You're not breaking up with them because of the one thing. You're just using that as the excuse. But in the reality, it was some other things that happened. Well, that's the story with Gallant that I'm not going to tell you. But so then we get the whole Tom Rowe thing. And, we made this huge move to analytics. Right? And they made a big deal about it. And that's what brought in Marchessault. And then, of course, Riley Smith a year later. That was both the same year. Right. Because, as we know, even though the team was not that good, Smith, Marchessault had promise, and they fit. They fit what the Panthers were trying to do with the move to being analytical, and not as, tough, gritty, grinded out type of thing. And then, as soon as that season was over, we protected Nick Bjugstad and Alex Petrovic so that we could lose Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith. And that's a true story. That's not a made-up story. That's not hyperbole. I'm not being hyperbolic. They did it and they said it because we wanted to stay big, strong, tough, especially with Bjugstad. It wasn't as much about Petrovic, but especially Bjugstad. He was a core piece that we were not willing to part with. Now, mind you, let me remind you here, Nick Bjugstad had just come off of a season. Where the hell is he? He's so far down the list I can't find him. Here we go. He had just come off a season where he was minus 19 with 14 points in 54 games. And we, on purpose, got rid of Marcus Owen Smith so that we would have room / money / that movement for Mick Bukestad. And what I mean by movement is the previous summer we had gotten rid of bigger guys in the move towards the analytics. By the following summer, we were already like, oh, that was stupid. No, we want to be big again. We want to be big and tough and strong again. So the road has been rocky. The road, and I don't mean the movie Rocky, although that might be apropos from what the Panthers have gone through this year. The road has been rocky because there was a couple of years in there, mainly the Bugner years, okay, where we, as a fan base, we were kind of like, what are we? What are we? We were trying to have a high-powered offense and be able to play that tough, grinding style. Bugner wasn't it. Okay, yeah, we had 96 points and still didn't get in. Okay, but we're not fooling anybody. That team wasn't going anywhere, even if they got in. And then we get Q. And then we start putting these other pieces together along the way where we get, Verhaeghe and Duclair, right? And then, the Sam Bennett thing and Reinhardt. And now we've got all these pieces, and we've still got Barkov and Huberdeau, and we still got Ekblad. And Uyghur looks like he's turning into something. And then Forsling looks like he... So the ball is rolling. And then what happened with Q? Because we've already seen, it's like we've done all this work, and now we're at the hands of the assistant coach who's never been a head coach before, win the President's Trophy, and then we know the story. Tampa sweeps us, which, by the way, it's a real sweep. Just because the series is close, Rod, it's a real sweep. Any number of things last year for the Panthers against the Lightning could have made that a 5, 6, 7 game series. Vasilevsky had to pitch a 50-save shutout to complete the sweep in Game 4. It's a sweep. They played 4 games, and in fact, in this series, they played 6 games. More than 6 games, right? 1, 2, no. We played almost 6 games. You know what I mean. Game 1 was long. Okay? We played more than 4 games. We played more than 5 games. And they still couldn't beat us. It's a sweep. I get it. You're upset. You're frustrated. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about in his post-game comments, Rod Brindamore didn't just allude to. He literally said, people are going to say we got swept, but that's not what happened. It's like, yeah, you cheated. Yes, you did. You went out to the club, you got drunk, and you cheated. It still counts even though you were drunk. Right? If one of you goes out to the club and cheats on your person, and then you come home and it's like, sorry, but I was drunk. You still cheated. A sweep is a sweep. So Tampa sweeps us. Okay. And then, consternation. The fan base. Should we keep Bruno? Can we win with Bob? What's Ekblad ever going to be? Are these the guys? And at the end of the 6-game series, actually, no, at the end of all of them, at the end of the play-ins against the Islanders, at the end of the 6-game series against Tampa, at the end of getting swept by Tampa, and all of the post games for all of the final games for those playoffs, I said, I don't know if this Barkov Huberdeau core are the guys. I don't know they're the guys. And what I got to by the end, after the sweep with Tampa, was I don't think these are the guys. And I was not all that excited about going into this season with Barkov and Huberdeau again. And that's not hindsight. I'm on camera saying that. Lots of talk, should we not get rid of Bruno? We do. And then we get Maurice. And now we watched Maurice's press conference. Okay. Now, my opinion in that moment, I'm not going to try to pretend here like my opinion didn't get swayed and changed over the course of the year. Okay. I'm not going to be intellectually dishonest. But my opinion when I watched that press conference was, okay, I like this. This guy sounds good. This sounds good. Sounds good. And I got Canes fans and Jets fans telling me, hey, yo, Jaws, I love you, bro, but that he just sounds good. It ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. Of course, because it hadn't worked for them. Okay. I said, well, let's wait and see what happens. Preseason let's back up. Kachuk falls in our lap. I don't need to belabor that point. Kachuk falls in our lap. How many times do you get what is clearly a top 5, probably top 3 NHL player who just says, yeah, I want to switch teams. I don't want to be here anymore. And they make it happen. And it just so happens that one of the pieces to that core that I was pretty sure wasn't going to get it done in Huberdeau goes. So we get Kachuk. Season starts. Slow start. Now, I don't want to get into quote predictions, but in my pre-season preview, I said we were going to start slow. I felt like we were going to start slow, build up, and win the cup. That's what I said. Okay. So we start slow, and so for a while, I broke down the season into 20 games. In the first 20 games, I'm like, this is going exactly how I said. And it was. Like by 1 point. I was off by 1 point. In the preseason preview, I broke it down how many points we're going to get every 20 games. In the first 20 games, I was 1 point off. I was like, okay, all right. If they keep doing what I said they're going to do, we're good. Then the second 20 games came, and it wasn't close. They were bad. They were really bad. And Bob was bad. And Stu and I were talking about like, well, this is clearly Spencer Knight's team now, and Bob should just retire because he's old, or maybe we can trade him or whatever. I mean, he was that bad. He was that bad. There wasn't anybody left defending him. He was just, for whatever reason, he was terrible. And then we had the crazy scheduling where we'd have a home game and then a road game the next day, and then we had lots of 3x4s and back-to-backs on the road, and guys were getting sick and were getting sick again, and we didn't have any depth because we had no cap room, and we had to play some games short and emergency call-ups, and Spencer Knight got sick, and it was just hell. But at some point during that hell, they started winning more than they were losing. Not by much, but enough so that they could stay in the conversation. Just stay in the conversation. When they put the graphic up on the TV, there's the top 8, and then there's those 4 or 5 teams that are still in the race. Stay on that side. At least stay in the race part. Okay? And we did. Not by much. There are times we were down 9, we'd get within 4 or 5, and then boom, it'd be 8 again. And we'd get within 4 or 5, and it'd be 6 again. But each time that happened, we cut it. So first it was 9, then 4 and 5, then it was 6. Then it was 4 and 5, and it stayed at 5. And then we got it to 3, and then it was 5. Then we got to 2, and it was 5. And then, but each time we'd get closer and closer. And then at the end, we got in. We just got in. We had a 6-game winning streak, finally. And we had won 3 games straight. And then we had a 6-game winning streak. And then we lost 4. And throughout it all, the opinions about Maurice, myself included, maybe even more me than than some, opinions about Maurice were just like up and down and up and down and up and down. And the truth of it is, and this I'm not saying this as a positive, by the way, but the truth of it is that what kept me from really going like full on can't stand Maurice was the preseason prediction that I made that we won the cup. I didn't want to give up on that. I was mentally prepared to come on and be like, well, I guess I was wrong. But that kept me in check. And that forced me to believe just a little bit, even when we were down. Even when we were down, when I got quiet time and I would get a chance to take a thought for myself, that prediction made it so that I just would not let myself give up. I just had to keep a little bit of hope that, but, because I had just done the Kachuk thing. And so when I made the video for the preseason, I was kind of feeling the same way because I kind of felt like in hindsight, I kept feeling like I felt like I was right. I felt like I was right when I said that. So it just gave me that little tiny bit of hope. But I was there criticizing with everybody else, just like I'm not saying I wasn't. There was definitely Stu and I had a funeral after they lost those 4 games. That's it. It's over. And I was just waiting for it to be mathematical to come on here and be like, well, my prediction was wrong. But things start putting into place. Pittsburgh just won't win a game. Right? The Islanders opened up the door to give us hope. And then when the Islanders opened up the door to give us hope, it's like Pittsburgh ran out the door the other way. They're like, oh, well, shit, we can get out of this? Woohoo! And they took off the other way. And we were like, okay. At the last second, we just kind of stepped into the door. It was like, guess what? I guess we're here. Hey, we're here, right? Yeah, we're here now. And when you look at it in hindsight, when you look at it all in hindsight, and you think about teams like Toronto, and you see them, as soon as they lose to us, they get rid of the GM, and they're going to talk about trading core players away and everything. You look at what the Panthers did and how they got here, it's not repeatable. Not how we got here. Because where we got to last year was kind of where Toronto was this year. But there's no other Matthew Tkachuk out there just going to drop out of the sky and change the whole fabric of the Leafs or any other team. So you can do all the planning and you can put yourself into position and you can draft and you can have your free agents and make the right contracts and make the right trades and get the right coach. And you can do all of those things. But you still sometimes need that luck. You need it to be your time. You need it to be your time. And so, Tkachuk falling into our lap, like Stu has said multiple times, Tkachuk falling into the Panthers' lap has leapfrogged the process far more than I'm sure that they could expect. I mean, when Zito hired Maurice, they talked about all the challenges, and there will be challenges. You know how Zito's eyes get all big. There will be challenges. And then we lose Duke, right? And Ekblad gets hurt, and Barkov gets hurt, and Barkov gets sick, and then the Spencer Knight thing. And now our season is hanging on Alex Lyon because Bob got sick. Who? What? And we're all like, Alex who? And we go and we look at his page, and we're like, oh, shit, we're toast, right? Because his numbers weren't exactly encouraging. Wasn't bad, but you didn't look at what his numbers were and jump up and be like, oh yeah, he's taking us to the playoffs. No problem. We're good. Right? Again, this was all just thing after thing after thing after thing that happened, including including and not limited to the fact of that as terrible of a move it was in the moment, and as long as it took us to recover from it, the Marshall Smith thing. I mean, the irony of it worked out for them and it worked out for us, and now it's likely that that's who we're going to meet, right? I mean, what is it, 98% chance that that's who the Panthers will be playing? We probably find that out tonight. So the irony of that having taken us this long, the whole entire basically life of the channel, with the exception of the 1 year, right? So if I added it up, I've probably done like 1,400 videos since the Marshall and Smith thing. It's taken that long for us to fix what we broke in that offseason, but sometimes you have to break things to remake them stronger. And the same thing with the coach, right? I mean, Bugner was never going to be the guy. That was where we wasted time. And then there's no disrespect to Bugner, okay? But at that moment, the franchise was just like spinning. What are we doing? What's the direction? But then Q came in and settled everything down in terms of we were going to have this kind of coach, this kind of system, this kind of winning atmosphere. And then, of course, we know what happened there. And then with Bruno, it's kind of like, whoa. I mean, he got handed the keys to a Ferrari. He drove the Ferrari he drove the Ferrari perfectly. Didn't do anything wrong, right? But then the track got a little tighter and he had to cut those turns a little bit better, and he just couldn't get it done. And that goes for the players as well. But then there we were where, I mean, if you look at it in terms of planning, in terms of making moves, Panthers made the right move in hiring Q, right? You can't foresee what happened. So now here we are with this decision that really should not have been on our radar. When you hire a guy, you don't expect, if you hire a guy and he leaves, it's because you fired him, right? Mostly. And so there's, the new direction you're trying to go in. This was, how do we continue moving in this same direction, but now it's got to be with a different coach. That's not easy to do. And then Paul Maurice enters the picture. And why my respect for him has grown infinitely is he just says it like it is, man. And what I mean by that is that this is his system. We are going to trust the process, trust the system. And even when things were not going well to our eyes, how many times did he gleam into the camera and be like, we're close. We're close. Like he knew something we didn't. How many times in those press conferences where we lose in overtime or by a goal, we just couldn't get that one goal, and he'd give that sly little grin and be like, we're close. We're close. Like he knew. So my respect for him has just grown because whatever job you're doing, whatever your role is, if you come in and you say, this is how we're going to do it, and then it starts to not really work, and you've got all this outside influence and all these people, all the pressure saying, what's going wrong? What are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we doing it this way? And you can just stand there and say, it's working. It's working. Even when nobody else can see that it's working. And he just stood there and said, it's working. And now it's working. Now, all that said, there's still one more series to go. There's still one more series to go. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. We're in, so we can talk about it, but we don't know exactly who we're going to play. The likelihood is Vegas. But I don't want to delve into that too much until we know for sure, because anything can and will happen. Anything can and will happen. Even if we don't play, even if Vegas ends up winning the series, maybe somebody gets hurt, something happens that would affect how we would break down and look at this series. So I don't want to get into that too much, other than to say, I mean, it's a Disney movie. It's a Disney movie from the sense, or at least the way Disney movies used to be. But it's a Disney movie from the sense that we got rid of these guys, and it was a stupid move in that moment. But it's worked out. It's worked out now. Worked out for Vegas, too. If they finish this off, this will be their second trip to the finals in, I guess, 6 years, right? So the only thing I'll say about the possibility of playing Vegas, and this is just to be a little bit of a teaser. I don't want to get in depth, but I feel like we can handle Vegas. And that's no disrespect to Vegas. But, I mean, we shut down Matthews and Marner. Did Aho get a goal? Right? We shut down Boston. And for anybody who says, yeah, but Vegas can score goals. Marceau, Smith, Stone, Foligno. That's fine. That's cool. Have you not noticed that the Panthers can win 4-3, 7-5? The Panthers can score goals. Look, if the worst happens and you all want to go run and gun, let's go. Remember, the Panthers didn't win last year because the run and gun wasn't working because it was that style of hockey. Well, Vegas don't play that style of hockey. If Vegas wants to race up and down the ice, let's go. Let's go. I like our chances just the same. That's the key. Panthers can play both ways. I don't necessarily think that Vegas can play our grinding style in the 7-game series and beat us. I think they're going to do everything they can to try to maybe make it a little bit more open ice. So we'll see. Like I said, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Now, this podcast will be a little bit shorter than normal because I'm literally like having to close my eyes. My eyes, not that I'm tired. It's just too much screen time for me. So I'm lowering my cap here. But I normally will end the podcast with a story time with Jaws. And inevitably, sometimes I have stories lined up in my head. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it takes me half a second. But somebody said to me this morning about Kyle and I, the dynamic for Kyle and I. Kyle's my son. We stream the games together. It's a big part of the channel. And I was talking, and it's like there's two dynamics there. There's people that are my age and older that watch Kyle and I, and they're like, they understand it from a point of view of they still wish their father was around. And then there's younger people that watch Kyle and I, and they say, wow, it's a great relationship to have, with the father and the younger son. He's 24. I get a lot of comments about that. I get a lot of comments about that, and I do appreciate and understand that. Last night when Tkachuk scored, I jumped up. I put the highlight up. I jumped up. I ran around. No, I was already lifting weights. Oh, my back from the weightlifting. I was already lifting weights, and I ran around, and I bumped into the table, and he had his water glass there, and he just rolls, and he says, watch out for the glass, and it smashes. Like, you broke the glass, you idiot. And it just hit me. I just was laughing at the fact that, son could call his father an idiot live and post it, and it's all in good fun. It's all in good fun. And I said this, I don't remember when I said this, but I'll say it now. It's not really a story time, but this series that's coming up, be purposeful in who you watch it with. Be purposeful with who you're texting with, who your people are that you're communicating with. Because these are going to be the memories. These are going to be the memories. I remember watching Game 4, Panthers, Avalanche, on my couch, alone. One dog on the couch, one dog in the bedroom already asleep. Alone. First time Colin and I watched Panthers in the playoffs together was the Devils series. 12, right? 12. And we know how that went, right? But he learned. He learned. We were heading in to the end of the game, Game 7, down 2. We were heading in the third period, down 2. Brother from another mother, Uncle Gene left. I said, nope, we're sitting on this couch. We tied a game, overtime. And I said, look, this is how this goes. We're going to sit here, and we're going to watch. And whatever happens, we're going to remember how it goes. And if it doesn't go our way, that's okay. And it didn't. It didn't. And he was disappointed, but he knew. He knew that it was registering with him then that this is an important part of my life. If you're not into sports and it's not an important part of your life, that's just not. But if it is, it is. You know what I mean? So these finals games, man, if you can't get to them, you can't get to them. Not everybody's going to have the money. I can't fly down and go. It's okay. But make sure that whoever you're watching with, that's who you want that memory to be with. Make sure that whoever you're texting with, whoever you're on social media with, make sure that it's, for lack of a better phrase, your people. Because we're going to win the cup. Going to win. I'm not going to stop saying it now. And let me just preface that part for anybody who's new to the channel or anybody wondering what I think about this or that. I made a video, I think it's September 24th, where I got real brash about it and said, the Panthers are winning the Stanley Cup. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm not going to stop now. I'm not going to nitpick whatever our opponent is and nitpick this series to death. Look at the matchups and look at this. I'll have content. I'll have people on and let them do that. I'm just telling you we're winning the cup. I don't have any diagrams or special statistics or matchups that are going to tell me anything otherwise, anything different than what I said over the summer. So if you think I'm wrong, that's cool. If you're a Vegas fan, you think I'm wrong. If you're a fan of another team, think I'm wrong. Okay, that's cool, but we're winning the cup. That's what I know. Like I said last night, that's what I know. All right. Sorry, it's a little bit shorter than normal, but my eyes are blasting out of my head, and I still have to ship the somewhere between 20 to 30 Florida Panthers flags that we sold in the eBay store last night alone after the game ended. It's just been one after another. So I appreciate that. Links are in the description I have a eBay store. I have a bunch of original Florida Panthers merchandise. I don't have as much as I used to because it's all been selling out the last couple of years. But when I say original logo, I mean it's from 1990. It's from the original inaugural year. Still new in the box. I bought out a warehouse about 6 years ago. It's not new old logo stuff. It's the original high quality stuff. There's still some shirts left. I still have a bunch of flags left, but they are going quick. If you have any interest in that flag that's over there on the wall, you can barely see it. They're $15 with free shipping. I'm not making a ton of money on them, but it's a reasonable price. But the point is if you want one, get one. Because I think I cracked open the last case. I don't know if there's 50 or 100 in a case, but I sold 30 in the last day. So they're going. They're going quick. They're going to be gone. So, all right. Kyle and I will be back streaming tonight. Game 4. Vegas, Dallas. Go Dallas. Give me a win, Dallas. So Kyle and I can get a couple extra nights off, and so Matthias has time to fly in for the Cup Finals. I'll see you guys later.